What if a rock star lost everything in just one night? Imagine spending your whole life chasing fame, only to ruin it all in a single moment. Today, we're looking at the shocking stories of rock stars who destroyed their careers. From scandalous decisions to jaw-dropping mistakes, these musicians had it all: fame, fortune, and adoring fans, until one wrong move changed everything. What type of blunders can destroy a career in the blink of an eye? And can they ever bounce back from the backlash? Stay with us as we expose the sensational, tragic, and sometimes just plain strange moments that ended these rock stars' careers. Whether it was a poor choice, a scandalous shocker, or simply bad fortune, these tales will have you asking, could they have prevented their fall? Let's dive into the highs and lows of rock and roll. Jerry Lee Lewis was on top of the world during the 1950s. He was a rock and roll pioneer who was producing hits such as Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On. He even became a potential rival to Elvis Presley. But one decision would ruin his life forever and end his career in a snap. It began in 1958 when Lewis embarked on a UK tour. The tour was to be an enormous success, but everything turned sour when the British media learned of an unpleasant secret. Lewis had wed his 13-year-old cousin, Myra Brown. To add insult to injury, he was still married to his former wife. The news was like wildfire, and the people were angry. The British press condemned Lewis as a disgrace, and the fans booed him. His tour was canceled, and he had to go back to the United States. But home wasn't sweet either. His music was pulled from the airwaves, and venues wouldn't book him. Lewis went from making $10,000 nightly to making almost nothing, hardly $250. Sam Phillips, who owned Sun Records, once indicated that if not for the scandal, Jerry Lee Lewis might have been bigger than Elvis. Lewis's choice of marrying his teenage cousin, however, ruined him. His career never recovered, and he became a cautionary example in the music business. What would you have done if you were standing in Lewis's shoes? Could he have prevented this scandal, or was it inevitable? Let's proceed to the next rock star who committed an error that ended his career. Billy Squier was a rising rock star during the 1980s. With his strong vocals and hit songs, he was among the most well-respected artists of his generation. Singles such as The Stroke and Lonely is the Night established him as a household name. But one choice, a single music video, would end his career nearly overnight. Squier put out a song in 1984 called Rock Me Tonight. The song was charting, and things were looking good. However, his record company made him create a music video for the song. Squier did not feel that he needed to, but he gave in. It would turn out to be an enormous error on his part. The clip showed Squier awkwardly dancing in a pink-colored room, tearing off his tank top, and crawling on the floor. The choreography, which was directed by Kenny Ortega, who went on to direct High School Musical, was totally at odds with Squier's rock persona. His fans were angry. The reaction was swift and merciless. Squier was transformed from a rock star to a joke. The video was so terrible that it eclipsed his music. Album sales dropped, and Squier's career never regained its footing. In a 2011 Rolling Stone interview, Squier stated, "It killed me. It was over after that. If you want a metaphor for the end of my career, that was it." What are your thoughts? Would Squier have been able to salvage his career if he had not shot the video? Or was there simply bad luck? Let us proceed to the next rock star whose career was ruined by a scandal that sent the world into shock. Tommy Lee was living the rock star lifestyle in the 1990s. As the drummer for Mötley Crüe, he was a member of one of the largest bands in the world. He had fame, wealth, and a marriage to one of the most gorgeous women in Hollywood, Pamela Anderson. But one scandal would alter his life forever. In 1995, Lee and Anderson filmed an intimate video during their honeymoon. The video was meant to be private, but it was stolen by an electrician named Rand Gauthier, who had a grudge against Lee. Gauthier broke into Lee's home, stole the tape, and leaked it online. The video became a hit, making $77 million in only 12 months. But Lee and Anderson never saw a penny of that. Instead, they were publicly shamed and humiliated. Lee was transformed overnight from a respected musician to the guy in the tape with Pamela Anderson. The scandal affected Lee's personal life. He was a substance abuser and was arrested in 1998 for domestic violence against Anderson. The couple broke up, and Lee's image was ruined. Motley Crue reunited for tours eventually, and Netflix even produced a biopic about the band. But even though he was successful, Lee's reputation remains tainted by the scandal. What would you do if you were in Lee's shoes? Would he have escaped the backlash, or was there no way around it? Now let's head to the next rock star, who had his career ruined by an unexpected moment during a performance. Jim Morrison, lead vocalist of The Doors, was the epitome of the rock stars of the 1960s. His untamed performances and poetry-inspired lyrics made him a legend in the making. But for one night in Miami, his life would change forever. In 1969, The Doors were scheduled to perform a concert in Miami. The hall was filled with 12,000 people, much more than it could accommodate. The audience was agitated, and Morrison was late. When he finally appeared on stage, he was drunk and furious. Morrison started screaming at the audience, referring to them as slaves and idiots. He then supposedly exposed himself on stage, although he denied the allegations. The show was a disaster and a shock, and it resulted in Morrison's arrest for public drunkenness and indecent exposure. The scandal ruined The Doors' image. Performances were canceled, and radio stations refused to play their music. Morrison was given 6 months in prison, but he died before he could serve his time. What do you guys think? Was Morrison's acting out a plea for help, or was it simply another incident of his wild habits? Let's proceed to the next rock star whose career was ruined by a racist trait. Eric Clapton is most renowned for being one of the best and most iconic rock guitarists of all time. He has a career in which millions of people enjoyed his songs. Songs like Tears in Heaven and Wonderful Tonight are forever timeless and continue to be played at weddings, concerts, and on the radio. Clapton's guitar skill and deep appreciation of blues music have cemented him as one of the all-time best musicians. But even with all his amazing success and legendary status, there was one moment in his career that put a dark cloud over his reputation, one that people continue to talk about today. Eric Clapton was playing a concert in Birmingham, England in 1976. He was riding at the height of his popularity. The crowd was packed into the venue, ready to listen to him play, anticipating a night of good music. But rather than simply giving an unforgettable performance, Clapton did something outrageous and deeply offensive. He launched into a racist tirade, uttering things that shocked the audience. Among the things he uttered was the phrase, "Keep Britain White," a slogan employed by far-right movements that advocated racism and anti-immigration sentiments. He also had other racist remarks about immigrants and individuals of other races, indicating that his opinions then were extremely problematic. This was particularly upsetting to a lot of Clapton's fans, because he had always praised black artists. Throughout his professional life, he had talked about how much he owed to artists like B.B. King, Muddy Waters, and Robert Johnson. Black artists who had originally created the blues sound that dominated his own work. To listen to him make such racist statements was a sense of profound betrayal on the part of those who adored and admired him, and the very musicians who had inspired him. The backlash was swift and harsh. Fans were appalled. People who had once looked up to Clapton found it difficult to support him after hearing what he had said. Journalists, fellow musicians, and members of the public condemned his words, calling him out for his racist views. Some people even called for boycotts of his music. Despite the controversy, Clapton's career did not come to a complete halt. He continued to put out music and tour and have a solid fan base. His reputation, though, was irreparably harmed. Regardless of how successful he became afterward, this incident was always a blemish on his reputation. For a long time, Clapton never spoke about what had occurred. He did not apologize or attempt to rectify the damage his words had done. It wasn't until over 40 years after that he finally broke his silence. When he did so, he attributed his behavior to alcoholism, claiming that he was extremely drunk at the time of the concert, and that his alcoholism led him to do things he later wished he hadn't. Although some accepted this account, others did not. They believed that attributing fault to alcohol was an excuse rather than true responsibility. After all, lots of people drink, but they don't make racist tirades. This scandal raised a significant question. Can one really disconnect an artist from what he does? Eric Clapton's musical legacy is unquestionable. He is among the best guitarists in history, and his songs have moved millions. But does that justify ignoring or forgiving his racist statements? For some, the answer is no. They feel that artists, particularly those with enormous clout, have an obligation to be accountable for what they say and do. They feel that Clapton could have done more to demonstrate that he had changed. Maybe by using his fame to support speaking out against racism or taking action to make amends with the communities he offended. Others have another view. They said that individuals have the ability to change over the years, and that a person's worst part of their life should not encompass their whole existence. Clapton has worked with numerous black artists since, and has continued praising the black musicians who influenced his life. For others, this is proof that he does not really have the racist opinions he voiced in 1976, or at least that he has changed and developed as a man since then. Yet the fuss around Clapton has not completely died away. Recently, some of his public remarks and behavior have still raised eyebrows. For instance, the COVID-19 pandemic saw Clapton express himself against vaccines and lockdown, joining hands with controversial personalities spewing misinformation. Although this does not have a connection to the racist remarks that he made back in the 1970s, reinforces the idea that he holds controversial views, hence making it all the more challenging for some to disconnect the artist from his ideologies. Central to this debate is a broader debate that goes far beyond Eric Clapton himself. How does society respond when icons of our affection do or say hurtful things? Is it possible to love a person's work without condemning his deeds? And how much should one work to put things right when one really regretted doing the wrong thing before? Although he is still a great musician, there will always be people who can never forget nor forgive his words on that evening. John Phillips was a name that burned brightly in music. As a co-founder and lead songwriter for the Mamas and the Papas, he contributed to the folk rock of the 1960s, with such successes as California Dreamin', Monday Monday, and Dedicated to the One I Love. The band became one of the era's defining voices. Their sound encompassed the free-flowing bohemian spirit of the era, and their harmonies were both lovely and distinctive. But beneath the glittering fame of John Phillips and his group lurked a dark and unpleasant secret that would forever taint his reputation. In 2009, his daughter Mackenzie Phillips wrote a memoir entitled High on Arrival, in which she made some stunning revelations about her father. As per her claim, John Phillips had been sexually abusing her for more than 10 years, with the abuse beginning when she was 19. The news triggered shockwaves not only in the music world, but elsewhere as well. Both supporters and critics struggled to reconcile the image of the brilliant artist with the horrifying crime he is accused of. The revelation of Mackenzie was also received with contradicting responses. Some people at once accepted her, appalled by what she told them. Others doubted her story, claiming that years of drug use could have distorted her memories. But Mackenzie was adamant that she was telling the truth, that she had nothing to gain from lying about something so personal and painful. She referred to her marriage to her father as abusive but consensual, citing the years of drug consumption and manipulation that had made her feel helpless. John Phillips was not unaccustomed to scandal prior to these charges becoming public. His life was marked by drug abuse, failed marriages, and unstable behavior. Throughout his tenure with the Mamas and the Papas, he had a reputation for being controlling and for his excessive use of drugs. Once the band disbanded, his addiction only intensified, resulting in arrests, rehab spells, and a career that never achieved the peaks of his early success. Though he kept making music and even reunited with a few former members, his fame had already suffered from his destructive lifestyle. When Mackenzie's memoir was published, numerous people found themselves questioning a hard one. Are we able to continue enjoying John Phillips's music if we now know what he did? It is a question that has been put to countless performers, directors, and writers. Are we able to disconnect the artwork from the person? Or are their deeds synonymous with the remainder of their life's work? Some believe without hesitation that John Phillips's actions were so terrible that his music should not be celebrated. They say that listening to his songs is akin to ignoring what he did, and in particular, what he did to his own daughter. They are convinced that continuing to listen to his music amounts to indirectly endorsing a man capable of such disgusting abuse. Others disagree. According to them, music once created belongs to the public. The Mamas and the Papas did not consist solely of John Phillips. They represented a collective, a talented band of individuals who brought joy to millions of people. They believed that the merit of songs like California Dreamin' should not be erased due to the personal failings of one performer. This debate is not exclusive to John Phillips. In the end, the legacy of John Phillips remains complicated. He was a gifted musician who created music that still resonates today. He was also, in his daughter's words, an abuser who caused deep harm. Whether his work should still be celebrated is a question each listener must answer for themselves. The tales of these rock stars remind us that fame is only temporary. It takes just one misplaced step, one poor choice, or one weakness to ruin a career in the blink of an eye. They also remind us of the power of accountability and redemption. What are your thoughts? Could these rock stars have escaped their fall from grace, or were they destined to fail? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the world of music.